Well, good morning. Thanks for stopping by the show. I'm feeling really good today. Feeling really positive. Had an opportunity to sit down with some new friends that I made, a group by the name of the Breadbox Foundation. Brooke Ainsley, Jefferson, Martin, and Meredith Brown run that particular nonprofit out of Birmingham, Alabama, and they were created with the goal of helping others in every way possible. Feeding life into people through education and fine arts is what they're focused on, and it was just a great opportunity to meet these folks, hear a little bit about what they do, and share their message. Leading up to that conversation, after my little spiel here, we're going to kick it off with a band called Oxmoor out of Birmingham, Alabama, that consists of Ethan Brown, Lillian Lagrone, and Dakota McClurg. Now, Ethan just happens to be Meredith's son, 15-year-old wizard on the guitar. Really impressed with the bass and the drum playing in this group, too, so I thought it would be pertinent to kick off with those guys, share a little bit about their music with their new song called LED. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for stopping by. I loved having the conversation. Let's go. So it's good to meet y'all. I was educated just a hair about what the Breadbox Foundation was by Paul Jackson, a friend of mine that lives over there in Birmingham. I lived in Birmingham for a short time. It was only less than a year. I lived over near Vestavia Hills, so I know the area a little bit. But why don't y'all go around and introduce yourselves and tell us where you're from and what kind of work you do or did before the Breadbox. And I want to learn about y'all first before we get into the meat of the talking about the organization, if that's okay.
I'm from Brooklyn, Alabama originally. I was born and raised there. My family's always been into music. I remember sitting by the piano when I was 2 years old. My mom always playing Bad Leroy Brown to me. She always played piano at church. I just remember growing up, my family always was dancing in the kitchen, and I just remembered music being joy in my life. And I grew up, went to school at Auburn University, graduated there, and moved to Atlanta. I was a stockbroker there for a year. I absolutely couldn't stand it, and moved to Birmingham, and I've been to in Birmingham ever since. I've had the privilege of working in Haiti, Ukraine, and Africa doing relief work. I built 200 houses in Africa, worked in orphanages in relief places around the world, taught people to read by candlelight in Birmingham, Alabama, by Legion Field, and just done different stuff doing relief work. And I'll let Meredith and Brooke sort of tell how we all met each other. I'll let them handle that. We all formed it from the love of music.
Jeff, you when you were building houses, was that with another organization, or were you just volunteering on your own?
So it was with an organization. So what happened? I was working with Walgreens, and I had signed up to do relief work in Africa 2 years before, but something came up with work, and I couldn't do it. And the earthquakes happened in Haiti, and the organization called and said, "Hey, Jeff, we want you to come build houses." I was like, "Well, I'm working at Walgreens. I'm a district manager there. I don't think they'll let me off." I emailed my boss. He said, "Go immediately."
Oh, wow.
So I met 30 people from around the world in the Atlanta airport. We flew together and lived together in tents, bathed in the ocean, and we learned how to build houses, and we built 200 houses within 6 to 8 months.
Wow. That's incredible. Brooke, you want to go next?
All right. I'm from Georgia. I'm from Macon, Georgia.
Holla.
And I didn't, but I'm not a dog. Roll Tide. So, but I went to Alabama. I was raised by parents that were completely into music. Allman Brothers, Capricorn Records, like the whole bit with the Macon music scene. And so I was kind of raised around music, always had a love for it. And then went to Alabama and then went out to Vail, did some stuff out there, came back to Georgia for a bit, and then came over to Birmingham. And then came across these folks. I used to teach and to use music in my teaching. I would tell them to, write a rap for the scientific theory or whatever, scientific method.
Sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask you what grade were you teaching?
Third grade, 3rd through 5th, really. And I always went to the darkest places I could find. I taught dance. I do art. I always did that. And I always just had a love for music mostly, but I could never play anything. So I just had the ear for it. And I grew up in a music family, but nobody could really play any instruments. So we were always into it and kind of grew up around it. And then basically, I don't know, I've been seeing loud music since the 80s, maybe earlier, just kind of going that route. But had I don't remember what year, but a friend of mine started a nonprofit that was kind of based on kind of my kids and my mishaps in life. And it's in Atlanta, and that kind of gave me the love of nonprofit and how that works. And when I came across these two, it was like we all had the love of music and we all had the love of giving, and we kind of just made it work.
It's funny. I did a interview with Cody Dickinson a couple of days ago and just put that up on the site. But I was talking to him about the music that was born out of the Mississippi Delta region. And I've always been a little bit fascinated with that area just because there's so much rich, singer-songwriters and guitarists and out of that area.
Yeah.
But he was quick to remind me, Georgia is nothing to scoff at, especially Augusta with Allman Brothers and James Brown and, in Georgia more broadly, Panic, B-52s, REM, Indigo Girls. And he made me realize, there is quite a bit of musical history out of Georgia as well.
You forget
that a lot of that stuff was born in Georgia. So cool.
Etta James, you've got, Macon alone had Little Richard. We had Capricorn Records, so there was a lot coming out of there. When you said Augusta, that was the only other place I've lived in, Georgia. So there's a lot of music history all over Georgia. But growing up in Macon, I was definitely all over that. My parents were as well. And then I don't know. Even though I was not a Georgia Bulldog, everyone that I ever knew was. And I definitely had many a day there. Y'all had the music scene. And I definitely knew all about that and would experience that growing up and slide out of my home and go, or my parents' home, and enjoy that. Like you said, REM. There's tons of music in Georgia.
Yeah, you're
So,
actually good catch. I forget James Brown was from Augusta, not Macon, right?
Yes, he would.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay, I
we
mixed
had
that up.
we had Little Richard. That's okay. I lived both places, so you can mix it.
How about you, Meredith? What's your story?
Well, I was born and raised in North Alabama. I grew up in Scottsboro, Alabama, where I was immersed in music from a young age. My cousin was Vernon Derrick, who was a fiddle player for Hank Williams Jr. My family owned audio video companies, and so I was raised in a very eclectic music environment with anything from Pink Floyd to Hank Williams. I moved to Birmingham, Alabama when I was 15, where my dad is from, and I was in choir. I played flute, had a voice scholarship to Samford University, sang classically, ended up pursuing other degrees in nursing and education. I was also a teacher. I taught kindergarten and first grade and did the same thing that Brooke did and incorporated a lot of music into my classroom, a lot of classical music to calm them when they were doing their work. And then we would, play a little Allman Brothers and a little Pink Floyd and things to do some movement activities. And I would just try to expose the kids. I taught in inner city schools and they hadn't heard a lot of different genres of music. So when they were in my classroom, they got to hear many different genres: jazz, bluegrass, rock. So I did that for a while. My husband started his own AV company and we started our family. And of course, our music is always playing in our home. Our oldest son was born with autism, and we did a lot of music therapy with him, and he really loves music. So that just further incorporated music into our lives. I ended up staying home for a while, taking care of him, and ended up doing some advocacy and was encouraged to go to law school in my mid-30s. So I went to law school and I worked with some special education attorneys and advocated for other families that had young children with autism. A few years later, ended up having another child. And this son has surprised us all by being a music prodigy. He picked up a guitar when he was 9. He's 15 now. He goes to the Alabama School of Fine Arts. He's been a classical guitar major since 7th grade, and he's been in bands since he was 10. He has a very successful band now at the age of 15 that's touring all over Birmingham and actually the state of Alabama. We kind of met Brooke and Jeff through him because we take him to lots of different venues and lots of different concerts. He plays classical, jazz, rock, jam, bluegrass. He plays many different genres. And so we took him to Avondale to see a band called The Stolen Faces, which is a Grateful Dead cover band.
Mm-hmm.
And this nice gentleman walks up and he's got a T-shirt over his shoulder and he sees my husband and I and he's dancing and smiling and moving and having a great time. And he reaches out to my husband with this T-shirt in his hand. And he said, "I think you need this T-shirt." And it was a Grateful Dead T-shirt. And of course it was awesome. And my husband was like, so happy and thrilled. And we started conversation and we got, exchanged names. And then we started going to other events around town and we kept seeing Jeff. And then my son sat in with a local band at another venue in town. And Jeff would come there, and then Brooke started coming, and then they started supporting my son. We just all started talking about how we need to do something to promote the fine arts for the youth in Birmingham. And what better way than to start a foundation where we could hold music events to raise money. And my son's youth band has kind of been the catalyst for our program and has performed at a lot of the events. And we're actually, in the planning of getting other youth bands in the community to come and just kind of promote, the fine arts and music and what we're trying to do in the community. But that's kind of a long story, but that's where we are today.
No, that's super cool. And I know that I'm excited about this new amphitheater that's going in Birmingham too, because I think besides BJCC and Oak Mountain, that's really about it, right, in the greater Birmingham area.
Yes, we have some great venues, some larger little venues that are opening up. We've got a new one that's actually coming to Hoover, which is where I live. They're building an outdoor amphitheater here, but I'm excited about the one they're doing in downtown Birmingham. I think that'll be really good. And I think, but it will definitely bring hopefully some widespread and fish to Birmingham.
I'll be there on the August 3rd. Machine Funk's going to be playing at Avondale Brewing, and I'm planning on coming up there for that. I don't know if y'all have seen them yet, but I'd love to see y'all if you can.
I love them.
Yeah, August 3rd, Saturday. Yep.
During the pandemic, we were looking for something to do at Avondale, and I got Taylor Lander. I sort of helped push them, and Machine Funk play for New Year's Eve there.
That's awesome. I mean, there's certainly a common theme between y'all having a love for music and being involved with children and advocating for folks and giving as a more general umbrella for all y'all. It seems like you've been on this path for some time, and it sounds like y'all are doing some really good things. How did the Breadbox Foundation come to being, just that greater organization? Whose brainchild was that?
So my favorite song was Ain't No Bread in the Bread Box. So that's how the name came from that Jerry Garcia band. But what happened was, at first, Captain Midnight Band was playing at Ghost Train. And it was right when the pandemic was starting. We were supposed to go to J-Rad in St. Louis, me and a bunch of my friends, and they had to cancel the show. So, and we were talking to Captain Midnight at the show, and we told them what happened, and they dedicated a whole Grateful Dead set to us, the second set. Fast forward, we were going to have, my friends were like, Jeff, we're going to have a birthday party for you, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, we're not having a birthday party for me. We'll raise some money. And at the time, we'd had a couple of friends commit suicide, so we decided to start raising money for Nisi Space. So the first ever party we actually had, that it wasn't under a bread box or anything. It was just a backyard party. And Captain Midnight from Nashville came and played, and we raised money. And we just started having backyard parties and raising money. And then I met Brooke and Meredith. We sprung the idea, and it just grew and grew and grew, and that's how it sort of formed.
That's super cool. I did a little bit of reading on the website and on Facebook, but what a better bunch of folks than to ask the question, what's the primary focus of the Breadbox Foundation? Is it a charitable group for underserved children in the community? Could you tell me a little more?
Our primary focus is to serve youth and underserved youth. Our goal kind of transitioned from, we did the first one for the suicide prevention, and then we have chosen a school that I used to teach at, which is an inner city school, who needed instruments for children that couldn't afford instruments. So one of our fundraisers went to those children. My son, his girlfriend is actually the bass player in his band, and she goes to a Jefferson County school that was in need of some funds for some band trips and other things like that the school was trying to raise money for. So that was our second fundraiser that we did. And we plan to do more outreach. We want to promote art and dance and theater. But music is our primary focus, and all of our fundraising events will be music events. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. And I think one of the things that opened my eyes, if I can tell just a personal story real quick, one thing that opened my eyes to there's still, even to this day in America, there's such a huge disparity between the haves and the have-nots, especially when it comes to children. I have a friend of mine who is a teacher, and the pandemic really exposed that, in that a lot of kids in the community, if it weren't for breakfast and lunch that they got in school, those kids oftentimes don't eat.
Absolutely.
She told me a story about how in Gwinnett County here in Georgia, when the pandemic kicked in, everybody was at home. The school district came up with a program to still go around and give out bag lunches to students who, I think she worked in Title IX?
Title I.
Title I, excuse me. Yes. So there was an effort put in place during the pandemic to make sure that those kids that were at home were still brought at least lunch, so that they had food to eat. And that just kind of, I don't know why it surprised me. I mean, I guess I guess there's folks that don't have what they need, but when you start talking about kids, it strikes a different chord with me. And when she told me that there had to be an effort, I guess what I'm trying to say is it exposed in my mind that there's still a lot of people out there that are struggling. I was glad to link up with y'all, because I was hoping to hear a little bit about the Birmingham area as it compares. I'm sure this is a nationwide problem, but getting involved with you guys was important to me because I wanted to learn about your story and put it out there and find a way for people to get involved with you all so that we could support your cause. I've been doing some volunteer work for Nucci's. I think I've said that a few times on some different episodes of the show. And like you said, it's mainly a suicide support organization that serves the needs of musicians in Athens. And I think when I'd first reached out, I learned that y'all had partnered with them on some things. And can you tell me a little bit about the socioeconomic conditions in Birmingham as you all see it, and like the things that are going on there that you're hoping you might be able to bring some attention to?
I think that I could speak for me and Meredith on this one. We both worked for Title I schools, and I actually worked for them in Georgia.
Oh.
And she did it here again, nationwide, just like you said. It's basically the kids that don't get opportunities that we all get. I know that things were kind of right and ready for me. I went to private school, you know what I mean? But I taught in Title I schools because I always wanted to kind of make sure that I always reached out to people that couldn't have or get what we had. And sometimes you just don't realize what that is until you go out there and get in there.
And Brooke, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the people listening that don't know what Title I schools are, and you correct my logic if I have it misunderstood, that means that it's a free or reduced lunch school, right? Isn't that what Title I means, or am I way off base?
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So to be a Title I school, you kind of have to have a certain amount of percentage of students that are on free and reduced lunch. And, I personally worked at schools that I had homeless kids. I was the only white person in the whole school. And, and I'm over here trying to rap out some lessons. Kids that I was always around when I started teaching. I grew up in kind of a privileged situation. And then, when I grew up and I started teaching, which I never thought I'd do, by the way. But anyway, I always went to the dirtiest, darkest places I could find so that I could show everyone that there is other opportunity. There's opportunities out there. Stereotypical situations are always there. I've always been misjudged by, what people think I am versus, what I look like versus what I am like. And, honestly, that's just a given with so many people. But always wanted to kind of get in there and let people know, or let the kids know, that there's opportunities everywhere. And even though I didn't know how to teach hip hop dance, I wrote a grant and made sure that there was an opportunity for me to do so and give them something to do after school. Keep them off the streets, keep them entertained, and all that stuff. But a lot of times, like with the kids that I taught, a lot of them didn't ever get to get out of the neighborhood that they were in. They didn't even know like that there was stuff out there. Some of them were homeless. Some of them were, and oh, that was just some really nasty, terrible stories. And they just didn't have a lot of hope, and they didn't have a lot of opportunities. And so I was always there to show them that there was stuff out there. I mean, they'd see it on TV, but they just really didn't realize that the world was out there. It was just right up the street, even. They just didn't have a car, So, I mean, it was basically, me. I always wanted to show people that, or show kids especially, that there were things out there. It's not just like having the dream. It's how to get the dream, like how to get out of the situation and hook up with the dream that they had, and the tools to do that. So that's kind of, I know Meredith was in Title I schools, and that's just always kind of the kids that don't necessarily have opportunities to have instruments, lessons, all the things that would be the tools to exercise their talent, and we're kind of, that's part of what we're here for. We're just trying to show and give the kids opportunities that they may or may not be able to see or have in their youngster days. And we're going to, we want them to be able to tap into things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Trying to expose them to different opportunities and get them the instruments. And like, for example, my son donated one of his classical guitars to a student in an inner city school, and he sat down with that child and he taught that child how to play, a little bit of the guitar, and got him really interested in it. And that child is still taking classical lessons to this day, which I helped to fund later. So it's a good outreach too for everybody that's involved in the nonprofit, and those that volunteer, even youth that volunteer within our program, to be role models, and we pull them in, to do that too. So yeah, everything Brooke said and more. And we have so many dreams and plans, and to grow this and do a children's choir and do camps and grow it as big as we can.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I was actually not surprised to learn, but Nucci's had a slight change in mission too. So they primarily serve the musician community of Athens, but of course they don't turn anybody else away, other people away. If you're not a musician, that's okay. You can still come in. But I know they had started doing, they don't do any type of crisis care there, but they work with a network of physicians and folks that can, they can reach out to get help. There's like a very minimal copay that they ask people to pay, and then the rest of it is covered by Nucci Space, and they'll even cover it 100% if you can't even make that copay, for lack of a better term. But they also started doing some regular health clinics where they would have like almost like those clinic on wheels that'll come in. They would have those come on site to do like wellness checks, and so they've expanded their mission a good bit too. And it's a pleasure of mine to work with those folks because it makes me feel good. I think I spent a lot of my working life in the corporate world and didn't give enough attention to helping others, and so as of recently, it's really been a joy for me to be involved with that organization and now be involved with you all. So it's good to make the connection. I appreciate y'all giving me some background on the
it makes foundation. You feel good.
Yeah, it does. Well, my next question.
Well, we appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, my next question I was gonna ask y'all if there are any other organizations or bands, et cetera, in the area that you've partnered with that you might want to give some appreciation or recognition to. Is there anybody else that does work with y'all that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'll definitely do that because without Daniel Rain, Taylor Goodwin, Davis Little, Ryan Brown, AJ, all those Will Cash, Lenny, all those guys, they formed a Breadbox band specifically for the Breadbox. There's a Dead for Love band that they play all our shows. The Talisman have supported us. Just all the and those guys have actually donated their time too to teach music lessons. So without them, none of this would have been possible. Really, they anchored it and helped us start it.
Also, we were able to, when we started, we were kind of on the coattails of like guidance with the nonprofit in Atlanta that had gotten started when it came to my kids, that was started before us. And we kind of used the guidance of Chad Blake and the Experiences Foundation. And he helped us out a lot.
He sponsored us in
Yes, he has helped us.
in the process of obtaining our
Yes.
nonprofit status. And he was very, very helpful in the process. And those bands that Jeff was talking about too have been so gracious and, promoting youth, and have let like my son sit in with them at these events because they're role models for my son who's coming up behind them as performers and musicians. So that's been a good influence, all around for everybody.
I love that I love that we also, with our mission and stuff, it not only promotes the kids and stuff, it also promotes local musicians, kind of just community outreach around here, because the way we do kind of promote everything and gather money and stuff to fund this whole bit is when we have events that actually bring the community together, and they actually are able to meet each other, and we support local musicians. We have a good time doing it, and it all kind of comes together. And it also shows the kids that there's the stage, like there's a stage that right there we could get on.
Yeah, we've had businesses donate items to us. For example, I had an organization donate a multitude of Halloween costumes and items, and we took those and donated them to the Exceptional Foundation here in Birmingham, which is an organization that provides day programs for special needs youth and young adults. My son attended there years ago, and it's a great organization. My son's school has also donated tickets to fine arts events that we have given out through the Breadbox, and gotten other children who normally wouldn't have had an experience to go see a play or a dance or a classical concert, the opportunity to go see things like that as well.
I had a conversation with Josh Timmermans, the band photographer for Widespread Panic, and he introduced me to the group Leaving a Positive Legacy out of Florida. So yeah, it makes me feel good too that there are people like me, which is y'all, out that are into the same music that I'm into, that are putting the effort forward to make a change in our communities. It's a thank you for letting me be a part of the group. And my other question was going to be
thank you for having us out there.
Yeah. How can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved? What's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, we're on social media, the Breadbox Foundation. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We do have a website that is about to go live. It'll be breadboxfoundation.org.
Woo-hoo.
So any of those three avenues, and we'll have all of our contact information on all three of those as well.
Fantastic. Well, I can't let y'all leave without asking you one more question. And I do this with every guest that I have. I'll start with Jeff. Jeff, what music are you listening to right now on your iPhone? What's on your playlist? What's hot right now for you?
What's hot? Yeah, I mean it's always JGB or Grateful Dead. I hate to say it, but that's where I go.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, brother. How about you, Brooke? What kind of music can you turn me on to?
I'm still just rocking with the regular, I mean, Widespread Fish, Grateful Dead, all the things. But my kid, he's into the country, and I'm not there. But he listens to the lyrics, and been trying to communicate with him through that. And I've had to get into the country a little bit harder, and it's difficult, but it's also been, I've found a few things that I'll be okay with.
Yeah,
But
I'm still digging on country a
I
little
can't
bit.
tell you like anybody that I'm really like. I'm not gonna like support anybody like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna put anybody out there that I'm into yet, but like it's working.
Okay,
I'm trying.
fair. That's fair. All you can do is try.
But I'll come back though. Really and truly, everybody should check out Oxmoor. That's Meredith's kids band. I know she doesn't want to say it, but I'll say it. The kid's awesome, and you should go check them out.
How do you is it Oxmoor?
For sure.
Yes.
They just released a new
Yep.
song he wrote called LED. It's on YouTube, and they have Facebook and Instagram. And he's going to be a junior in high school. Got plans and dreams to go to Berkeley. He wants a performer. It's all he does. Music is all he does.
This is your son, Meredith?
But we listened to a lot of Fish and Grateful Dead and Billy Strings, but I was actually going to answer that question, and
Please do.
sitting here right now uploading a promo video for a Battle of the Bands competition he's doing this weekend that will give him a chance to record in a Grammy-nominated artist recording studio.
Wow.
So we listened to a lot of Oxmoor, and so thank you for that plug, Jeff.
Yes, there are Pete's. We totally support her, kid, Ethan, and that whole band. They're fantastic and insanely talented. And LED's my favorite. Didn't they compose that? Didn't he write that, Meredith? All the way, start to finish?
You hear his classical and jazz training for sure, and also you're going to hear a little Trey and Jimmy Herring and widespread influences in it as well. So
how old is this? How old is this little wizard?
He's 15.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic!
He's almost ready to drive us around.
You almost you must be so proud. You must be so proud, Meredith.
Yes, I am. He's the music is in him. We support him fully. We've got a studio. We've done everything, and we continue to do everything we can to support him. And being a part of Breadbox has just continued to expose him to new musicians and new people and opportunities, and I'm very grateful for that. So a lot of good has come out of Breadbox for this, not just me personally, but for my whole family.
Ethan Brown. Okay. All right. I'm gonna do something special for his group.
You're so sweet.
Well, listen, it was great to meet y'all. I didn't have a ton of questions. I just wanted the opportunity for y'all to tell your story, learn a little bit more about you. Thank you for letting me in the Facebook group, and I hope we can do something together. We should. We'll talk about this offline, but maybe we can put our forces together for good.
Most definitely, and we appreciate this. And we hope we gave you enough good info.
You did. Anything else you guys want to say? Anything I might have missed about y'all that you want to throw in?
We're always looking for volunteers.
Yes, always. And you know what? We're always looking for bands to come jam out with us to raise good money for the good cause. And we can't thank you enough for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all. I'm gonna do what I can to help further your cause, and I appreciate y'all coming on.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Working so hard for oh so long. What do you got to show? Open up your eyes, little darling. Let's pack up the things and go. Open up your eyes, little darling. Don't wanna live here no more. Open up your eyes, little darling. I've been here for about 2 say. She said, Elijah, you better look around. Things ain't like they used to be. Time's getting hard for you and me. Come on, Daddy, it's time to shake things down. Cause there ain't no bread in the bread box. We ain't got no dough. And it seems like we ain't got enough time to go around no more. You've been working so hard for oh so long. What do you got to show? Open up your eyes, little darling. Let's pack up the things and go. Open up your eyes, little darling. Don't want to live here no more. Open up your eyes, little darling. Been here for about too long. Open up your eyes, little darling. It's time to move along. I just finished bringing wood to the kitchen when I heard my mother say, she said, Elijah, you better look around. Things ain't like they used to be. Time getting hard for you and me. Come on, Daddy, it's time to shake things down. Cause there ain't no bread in breadbox, and we ain't got no dough. And it seems like we ain't got enough time to go fooling around no more. We've been working so hard for oh so long. What do you got to show? Open up your eyes, little darling. Let's pack up the things and go. Open up your eyes, little darling. Don't want nothing here no more. Open up your eyes, little darling. Been here for about too long. Open up your eyes, little darling. It's time to move along. got to show. Open up your eyes, little darling. Let's pack up things and go. Open up your eyes, little darling. Don't wanna live here no more. Open up your eyes, little darling. Been here for about 2 months.